Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I'm Kurt Dudley, Director of Broadcast Services for the Dukes of James Madison University, as we continue our series of getting to know some of the behind-the-scenes personnel, but very important personnel that support the JMU Dukes in many regards. And today we're talking about academic services, student-athlete services, and we're speaking today with Jake Van Roekel, who's been at JMU for a couple of years now. And Jake, just kind of take us through your career path and how you landed A, at JMU, and B, in this profession.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually was a swimmer at the University of Pittsburgh. So I was a student athlete there. And during that time, I got the opportunity to coach and do some teaching in those regards. So I actually got my initial degree in education and started off as a high school teacher and high school swim coach. Did that for a couple of years and really enjoyed everything about that, especially the building of the relationships and helping to develop the students that I was working with in and out of the classroom, and really was kind of interested in trying to get back into working with college athletics, and had the opportunity to come up and I applied at JMU, got the job, and had the opportunity to come here. And I've been here since 2017 and just kind of enjoyed, working with the student athletes I work with and, again, helping them with a key part, which is the academics. A lot of people and a lot of student athletes come to JMU to focus on their sports, which is great, but we also have to develop the academic side. And that's just something that I really enjoy doing, is helping them to develop as total individuals while they're here at JMU.
How much do you call upon your own experiences as a student athlete, as a swimmer for the Pitt Panthers, and how you apply and approach the student athletes? And it's interesting because as you go further in your career, that age group stays the same, but you don't. So how do you adapt to that right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a benefit just because, I've been where the student athletes have been. I understand the time management that it takes to, have 20 or so hours of competition and travel. And then also on top of that, a full course load. So it really allows me to empathize with the student athletes and understand where they're coming from. And at the same time, since I can understand that, I think I can help them to develop skills and to develop certain habits that will help them to succeed in the classroom and get them to understand that, hey, like the athletic part is important, but we also got this academic side that we also have to work on developing. Just like anything you do with sports, we got to develop, your academic side of things as well.
You work specifically with two programs, men's basketball and women's tennis. Certainly diverse groups as they are, but you often, I hear times, have basketball players, women's tennis players in your office at the same time, and you work with them all at the same time, not necessarily separating them, except sometimes you might need to, I guess, for a one-on-one certainly. But given the reason I bring that up, I want to speak about how the working with those two groups kind of speaks to the overall athletic culture of James Madison and what you've been involved with since you've been here since 2017.
Yeah, I think, big thing that we're really proud of here is, Dukes supporting Dukes. Like, we want to support all teams across the board. That kind of just started. My policy is always to have an open door policy. So as, student athletes from the tennis team and student athletes from the basketball team were coming by, they would always stop in to see me and hang out. And it was just sort of inevitable that the two would overlap. And for a while there's just kind of some awkward silence. And it was one of those things where, if that was going to be the case, I couldn't have that. So, if a member from the women's tennis team would come in and I had some basketball players in here, I would force them to introduce themselves and talk amongst themselves. And it sort of just developed into a relationship between the two of them where the two teams, where they started asking how each other's programs were doing and how the matches went and how the games went. And really just did, it speaks to the Dukes supporting Dukes, because they would come in and whether it was a tough loss or a great win, they would be there supporting each other, because we all have the same goal here. We want to be competitive and we want to succeed, on the court, or in the classroom. And so it's just great seeing those two teams that, like you said, very different backgrounds, very diverse backgrounds, but really come together to support each other for that common goal.
What's nice about those two is they can go out and watch each other too, because their seasons they overlap just a little bit. Of course, basketball being a winter sport and the tennis playing in both the fall and the spring. So Jake, tell me how you kind of establish a baseline when you meet these student athletes for the first time to try and, hey, there he is, to try and determine what their needs are, what kind of help they might need for you. Because I'm sure there's some that don't need a lot of attention at times, and then there are others that you may need to work with on a regular basis, week to week. I don't have an idea. Share with us if you would.
Yeah, so we do a couple of different things. The first thing that we do is every student athlete that comes into JMU will go through a reading screening with our learning psychologist, Catherine Litton. She will go through and essentially evaluate where you are and what reading level you are. And through doing that, we can sort of see if there's any concerns that might come up in the future. So if we have anybody that might be, that we might see is needing a little extra or additional help, we'll typically flag them and we'll do one of two things. We'll either get them into a little bit more in-depth learning evaluation right away, or we'll just watch them for the first couple of months and see how they're doing and how they're adjusting to the university. If they go and do the full learning evaluation, then at that point, we'll start to see like, hey, we know you're really weak in math, or you're really weak in reading and writing, whatever it might be. And from there, we'll take the appropriate steps to get the additional help that student athlete might need. If it's one where we just have to watch them over the first few months, we'll kind of watch. We'll have weekly check-ins with your grades. We'll talk about how are your study habits developing, how are you developing, or how are you doing in your classes, your homework, your tests, your quizzes, and from there we'll reevaluate and see if we might need to get some additional help. Another thing that we'll do is we typically will send out a survey to the student athletes that come in, just as a kind of a general introduction to the student athlete themselves, their experiences, and where they're coming from as far as if they're a transfer from another university, if they're coming from high school, a junior college, whatever it might be. And in the survey, we just sort of ask them their own personal thoughts on how they feel they are doing. So, what do you think your strengths are? Where do you think your weaknesses are? What do you think you will need help with? And just give them a chance to sort of do some self-reflection on their previous education and what they might need help with. And then that gives me some insight on some things that I might need to pay attention to and might need to watch, again, in order to help them succeed in the classroom.
Sounds like you put a lot of, even though there is some standardizations, there's also a lot of customization to each individual. And I think that's really how education should work, because otherwise we're just an assembly line process and not everybody's getting the full benefit. And I think student athletes certainly have this as a great benefit to them. You spoke of time management, of course, and with student athletes, that is of the essence because they've got so much time invested in honing their athletic and competitive skills. They don't have a lot of time to just kind of hang out and not study on academics. There is that time, of course, but I think you probably, it's an adjustment, I think, for many of them to come to an academic, and such the pace is that college athletics and college academics are. How do you hone those skills?
It definitely is a transition, and especially, even if you talk to a lot of our transfers that come to JMU from other universities, whether it's a Division I university, a junior college, wherever, the majority of them will tell you that JMU is even a step up academically, which is something we're very proud of. We are a very strong academic institution here, and we take pride in that with our athletics. One of the things we work with is we just work right from the beginning of developing schedules with our student athletes. And so whether it's building their class schedules with me and looking at, hey, where can we fit these classes in that fit with your practice? Where can we fit our study hall times in? Where can we fit our tutor times in? We'll set up pretty detailed schedules for them as far as their classes go and as far as their tutoring and their study halls go as well. And then outside of that, it's kind of a one-on-one basis and an individual basis based on what they need. Some student athletes might need a little bit more help as far as setting up a calendar specifically for them, where we list out their assignments for the coming week or the coming month or however long it might be. Others might just need kind of the occasional check-in to make sure that they're keeping up with their work. So it really is kind of individualized, but it all starts with that schedule. We try to set a schedule up that's favorable for them. We include them in building that schedule so they know when their classes will be, how far apart they'll be spaced, and where they have time to do their studying and their homework and their tutoring.
Yeah, I guess identifying that time to do the studies and to be disciplined to do them at that time, I think, is key to the success. And I say this too, but if you can also go out there and look, there is a long list of academic honors that incurs the entire JMU athletic program, and that's something certainly to be proud of. And without your type of service, I don't know that we would get there. So congratulations to them. There he goes, back in the dark again. So see, he helps you to see the light academically, apparently, is the way this works out. So a couple of quick questions, and we'll let you roll on, Jake. How much time are you personally available to the student athletes in a given typical work week?
Right. So this week's a little, well, I should say this semester has been a little different because I'm usually only in the office about 2 days a week right now. When I'm in the office, I'm here from, usually any time between 8 and 9 to between 4 and 5, just depending on what's going on during the day. Usually if it's a normal semester, that would be every day. So usually in the office from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, somewhere in there. But I think if you ask any academic advisor, when you leave the office, the job doesn't stop there because student athletes have classes or assignments or emails they need help with sending. So I have my phone on me when I'm home, probably, if you ask my wife, maybe too much, but probably, up until 10, 11 o'clock at night. So if a guy really needs something or a girl really needs something, they can reach out and text me or give me a call. Weekends especially too. A lot of people are doing their work over the weekends or have things come up that they may need some additional help with. So, personally, as far as face-to-face interactions, I'll be in the office, your normal hours, 8 to 5. Occasionally we'll have study halls in the evening. So that'll give me an extra 2 hours in the building. But as far as always being available, I think that's one of the things I always try to be is I want my student athletes to know that I'm available to support them whenever and wherever I am. So they can almost always reach me by phone if they absolutely need something.
So Jake, what do you consider when you go home and let's say you do put the phone away, you do disconnect for a little bit. What do you consider to be a truly successful day for Jake?
Yeah, I think, for me, I got into this job and really transitioned from teaching into academic advising, specifically because I like just building, those relationships with the young student athletes and helping them to develop. For me, I think if I can walk away at the end of the day, knowing that I made a positive impact on one of our student athletes, whether it's helping them, develop a calendar or whether it's, helping them to proofread their paper or whatever it might be, knowing that I had a positive impact on the student athletes helps me to know that I had a successful day. If we want to have a really great day, I really love it when, my student athletes start to take some of that ownership of their grades and I'll get a text from somebody saying, hey, I got a 100% on my quiz or I got a 95 on my test, and they're excited to text me, which in turn makes me excited because I know that they're proud of the work that they put in. They worked extremely hard to get that grade and I want to celebrate them and I want to celebrate what they did to accomplish that.
He is Jake Van Roekel, who is one of the academic advisors for the Dukes of James Madison, working with men's basketball and women's tennis. Jake, thank you very much for spending some of your valuable time with us today, and best of luck as you continue to support the Dukes.
Of course. Thanks, Kurt.